I think people admire Hilma af Klint because way before her time, she made diagrams that now we accept as commonplace New Age motifs.
Right.
And because she's a visionary. Like right?
Yeah, she invented her own language.
So everybody's like, whoa, like the thing that like the bad hippie made at this crystal store in Big Sur, this looks just like that. And it's from the, it's
Was it from the 30s, 40s?
I think it was like from the 1910s, right? Homoklust?
No. Oh, is it like?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because it was like early Theosophy. So yeah, it's like, it's before even like Art Deco. Hilma af Klint's making this kind of stuff, but it's because she had like, her mind was able to function in this like alchemical and iconographic way that she was able to kind of like sense these, universal realities and give them some kind of pictorial representation, right?
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Blue Hour podcast, where we explore the minds and the worlds of visionary artists and creators. This week's episode is the first time that I had two guests on at the same time. Benjamin Kellogg is an artist I've been following for a long time. He uses cryptograms and ancient Masonic symbols and recreates these kind of temples with different materials like sculptures, installations, some types of textiles. And I've been very drawn from the first time I saw his work. And so I was supposed to film with him in New York. And it happened that the other guest I wanted to have on was there with him in the studio where we were filming. So we decided to all film together. And the other guest then is Micki Pellerano, who is a Cuban-American artist and also an occultist and astrologer. And he has shown also in different venues, like even the MoMA in New York City. Has a very unique approach and is just a very entertaining person to listen to, very insightful as well. So you won't want to miss this conversation because they're friends and I didn't know them before this conversation. So it creates this very interesting dynamics amongst us three that you won't want to miss. And on another note, the grant applications for the Rosumbra offering is going to be released soon. So keep your eyes peeled for this and let's jump right in. Just give like a short introduction of what's your inspiration for what you're doing right now in your work, because I know it evolves throughout your career, but like right now, what's your interest in your art and your personal spiritual life?
Do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Really?
Yeah, you're better than me.
Ben and I are friends, by the way. We didn't come off the street not knowing each other.
He found me in the gutter.
Yeah, Ben is a big inspiration for me and my work, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, because Ben knows a lot of secrets. He knows a lot of hidden architectural sources of magic around the city, and he's got a really strong understanding for design and for geometry and sacred geometry and symbolism that is alchemical and Masonic and occult in many ways. Plus, he knows a lot about cinema and literature and other things that interest me. So, my friendship with Ben is a very inspiring one, I would say, and he's a lot of fun too. Lately, my work has been focused mostly on. To be honest, it's interesting. I mean, I was really active in the art world for a long time, and COVID. During COVID, I kind of took that opportunity to become very isolated and become this undistracted occultist maybe for the first time ever. And it was great. I mean, my practice of esotericism, astrology, talismanic magic, Hermetic occultism that falls within the Hermetic tradition, but also Jyotish and Vedic astrology. I study under Freedom Cole and Eric Rosenbusch and Param Guruji Sanjay Rath, and I teach under my Hermetic teacher Austin Kopic. So my art practice lately has been focused more on honestly, talismanic work, making talismans, be they either lunar mansions or things like that. I haven't been concerned really with other people so much. I'm making art for
But those talismans, do you do them for yourself?
Yeah. And I also design like images of deities and things like that I use in my own spiritual practice, but they are useful to some of my colleagues and things like that. Yeah.
He said he would make me one at some point, I remember. Or give me one, possibly.
A talisman?
Yeah, one of the like maybe etched metal plates that you designed.
Yeah. I got a Jupiter talisman for you.
Yeah, I think it had a nice...
I think because like the people that will watch us will not necessarily, your audience will know probably, but not necessarily mine or yours, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Talisman, like, can you explain how it's made, but also what you use it personally for?
A talisman is really any object that is imbued with magical properties, I would say. Mm-hmm. And astrology is a very effective way to imbue an object such as a stone or a metal with the quality of time that moment possesses, right? If all of us has a birth chart, then all of us are products of the moment of time in which we came into the world. Yeah. And then we carry on that imprint, you might say, succeeds and cycles throughout our life, right? So in talismanic practice, you imbue an object with the astrological properties of that moment in time, right? And certain metals and stones are more or less receptive to types of certain images also are more or less receptive to that energy, other correspondences such as herbs, etc. And then with a certain amount of intent and taking employing astrological means, an object can be imbued with magical properties.
If I understand correctly, also is to you carry on this object that has been infused in the right time and space, so that it can be used when the time and space is different than the moment and where it was perfect to charge the object is not anymore, where you can still transfer this energy in time.
Yeah, just like you are imbued with the energy of the moment in time in which you were born, mm-hmm. the talisman itself is imbued with the energy of the time in which it was created or consecrated, right? Or completed. So it's there's different levels, and different ways in which people have relationship with talismans. Sometimes it's nice to acknowledge them as spiritual entities that are actually that can be communicated with and respected and made offerings to and stuff like that.
And I think that's interesting. We're all artists, and that's been also like part of my own personal vision with this project as well, to redefine why we make art. We're talking about talisman. It can be an object of art, right? You put designs on it and you make it your own with symbols and different things. But like an artwork for me is also a product of time. We birth it, and to develop a relationship with it, not just birth it and then forget it, put it in a gallery, it sells and whatever, and then it's finished. But pay more respect to the mirror we're creating of ourselves, to like study ourselves first of all, and then to eventually create portals, create, let's say, a life-size talisman. Like your artwork that you're making becomes a living talisman, and it has a unique flavor, has a unique like everything, right? And when people see it, it's the same thing as the talisman. It's infused with that, what your mind and your emotions projected on it. So what do you think about that relationship between the mind and the...
His apartment is particularly stacked with this kind of sentiment,
Oh yeah.
There's always an altar or two, in the living room where I'm like, oh, candy, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should have a little bit of this candy. They're like, oh, you don't want to touch that because it's for a specific.
That's not for you.
It's for a specific deity, and then he's like, if you want, you can eat this orange for Ganesha, but not that candy. Yeah. It'll come back.
But do you say that because there's also artworks in his apartment that serve this purpose?
Well, his whole apartment is like a work of art in a sense. I mean, honestly, we should be shooting this in his apartment because it's perfect. It's like a movie set. Yeah, part two.
Yeah, it's very messy right now.
Oh yeah. Well, Why, you had like a nice UFC kind of, you have people over or something?
No, we didn't have a chicken wing night this week. I used to bet on UFC fights using astrology, and I would have people over and make wings and nachos and all this stuff, and I did pretty good.
It's such a culture clash too. It's like UFC, which is like the most like low. It's all. I mean, I'm not trying to knock on anything like that.
Yeah, it's more animalistic in
completely different sphere of influence on people in general as well. You know, I mean, besides like the gambling, which is games of chance, and the how would you say it, the magic involved with games of chance and stuff like that.
That's my 11th house Rahu, the gambling.
Okay.
Yeah, but my teacher Austin Kopic, one of the greatest astrologers probably ever, is actually the one that got me into UFC and that kind of thing. So he kind of did it. But what about you and the kind of emblematic language in what you make, right? Like how is that talismanic and
in my art or in my apartment?
In your art.
Oh, in my art.
Yeah, like it seems like there's so much mystery encoded in that stuff,
very, like symmetrical.
I would say like each individual thing that I work on is sort of like it's riffing on the Renaissance idealistic utopic city planning sort of, and each thing that I do is sort of like it's sort of a new idea for a new type of temple, but it's always to house the in general energy of like an elemental thing like fire, water, earth, something like that.
So every installation enhances a specific element.
And usually every drawing too. It's something that I would like to someday truly build, but it's very geared towards a temple architecture and like the mystery of temple design and where the origins of where that comes and stuff like that, which is interesting to me.
Your intention is, do you want to kind of bring this back, in people's minds, like the ideals that like the Romans had, and like to bring this back to the surface through your art installations, bring this back to the dialogue of... I
mean, honestly, like, society's not doing well in terms of like architecture and design, so it's like we could use a little bit of like a traditional revival,
and I feel it's coming back, like not like
a tiny bit at a time, like
100 years or 2
we just have to make like real estate developers like abolished and maybe exiled, like never allowed to produce architecture again.
But didn't you study architecture?
No, I didn't actually. My dad is an interior architect, so like for other projects he would design like the interiors or maybe renovating something like that, and he always had these like amazing books of postmodernism and the flavor of the moment in like the 80s and 90s. So I was like always going through his stuff. I kind of just learned it myself. I went to Cooper Union though, so I also got a little bit of like influence from the architectural people there, but I'm so glad I didn't study architecture because it's so much work, and I'm not cut out for math and geometry and like actual geometry and not just like the idealistic geometry. Also, I think in general, like my designs, like if they were put to practical architectural use, like people would die. So it's not like, it's like I should not be a real architect. I can do like a nice installation somewhere.
But I feel like it's as or more important, the space you live in, physical architecture, but also your mind becomes your architecture. So like symbolically, when people go in the space you created, they are infusing their minds with this space that you've created.
Yeah, it's a total reflection of like your mental health and like the health of the body populace. It's like maybe it's a bit like fascistic to think like that, but it is absolutely true that like however beautiful the place that you live in is, it's like how healthy everyone else should be aligned with that. It's obviously symbiotic, and we're in New York right now, so it's like it's got a bit of like an insane duality in so many ways, It's like it's beautiful and disgusting at the same time. Like
I was reflecting on that just today. Like I did a little meditation and I was like, whoa, there's like so much noise and chaos, people screaming, ambulances at all times. But also I felt like this has a direct influence on your inner world. So if you can be still inside while there is this, you can go a lot higher.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you learn how to
tempered.
Like I don't know. Like somebody was complaining the other day in one of the classes I take that like oh, I can't meditate because it's too noisy outside. I'm like, noisy outside. Like I'm like
what do you mean?
I'm like I don't even. You know what I mean? It's like if you're in New York and you kind of train yourself against that. You know, I mean, the environment, like, you know, Ben's house is full of crazy stuff too. He's got like a shelf with like the name of the rose on VHS and next to like all these weird movies, and then you know
I'm very materialistic. I have a lot of collections.
Yeah,
I'm an obsessive collector. Actually.
Yeah, he collects like old like medieval and Renaissance keys to doors and stuff like that. Keys are very K2, and
or what? They're very what?
South node of the moon, and yeah, you got prominent nodes, you know, and like Rahu and Ketu are these like, you know, unlocking door keys, you know, and Rahu is quite materialistic in the first house, likes to collect things, likes to fuck with things, you know, likes to design, you know, likes to mess with material reality. But yeah, your house is full, you know, he buys all these film reels and stuff. I was like, God, how does your girlfriend feel about it?
She hates it. She absolutely, there's one right here that this is a gift for a friend that we're using his studio right now, but it's like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit short on 35 millimeter.
Do you have like a projector too?
I don't. Have a 35 millimeter projector is like, they're kind of industrial size, so it's like you would need like a real movie theater to like truly. I mean, I feel like there might be one that's like a smaller model, but it's probably like thousands of dollars.
Maybe at the Roxy we could do a night or something of that.
I do have a feature-length Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh.
But it's on a type of reel. I can't remember the exact word, the name of the reel, but the reels are like this big, like at least like 2.5 feet across and heavy. So it's like a different kind of projector.
Like these things, what do you have in mind? Like, do you think like I'm gonna do an installation?
Archiving, just keeping it for the future, you know.
Okay, just regrouping it together for like, so that
there's
get lost.
There's a bit of like the Jewish mindset is like, you know, you love a deal kind of, and you're like, me personally, when I was like, you know, maybe buying some sort of like memorabilia like 10, 15 years ago, like in 2011, I don't know, I'd buy something for maybe like $15, and so many things I didn't kind of like pick up that are just lost forever, but they're just like worth so much money now that I'm like, well, if I don't get it now, it'll be worth like 5 times as much in the future, so I might as well just pick it up today.
I always regret, I very seldom regret buying things, but I very often regret not buying
things. For sure. That's exactly how I feel.
And it's like it's this, you know, it's when something becomes your own, you know, like when like through a transaction, you know. I'm sure we can get into a whole debate of whatever the illusion of ownership and all that, but it's like you said, like adding to the space in which you inhabit. I mean, that's what Feng Shui is about, you know. In Vedic culture, it's called Vastu, you know, like the way that like the objects in your space and the energy that they imbue and what your surroundings are charged with, you know, even if they're not, maybe you didn't use astrological timing to obtain that bookend, but it still has a charge, it has an image, it invokes something, and that's why you want it around. You know,
I also love
I was curious.
I love to give gifts too, so it's like, even if it's not something I'm like going to hold on to forever, eventually I'm going to find someone who's going to like absolutely love whatever random object I have, you know. And like, so
you're attached to it in the moment, but like eventually I
love to keep things moving basically as well. But I am a bit of a numismatist right now. I like to collect, maybe like last year before that, a lot of like ancient jewelry, like Roman rings, coins, medieval rings. Like I'll find like metal detector like nerds in Europe and the UK and just like buy it from them very cheap or something like that. But I'm getting more into rare books. Like that's kind of the thing I'm really interested in now, is like vellum bound manuscripts. They're very like ecclesiastical, or they could be like very just like like the rules of architectural. I got the one I'm very, very like proud of at the moment is like I got an architectural perspective book from the 1500s, so I guess 16th century Italian.
I'm guessing you just don't just buy it, you buy it if you're like interested to read it as well and learn from it? Or?
I wish I could read it, but it's in Italian. But
so it's really a collection.
But what's amazing about this book that I'm referring to is that half of it is a perspective charts. So like the first half is all in just words, text, but then the second half is like 60 to 80 different perspective charts about how to draw the body in space, or how to draw different light sources for architecture students and stuff like that, for them to do their plans. And a lot of them are fold outs too. So it's very like, you know, like the Playboy magazine that has like like a three
centerfold,
like a centerfold. It's like a centerfold type thing, but there's like 30 different fold out charts, and they're like incredible. So I wish I brought it. I could have brought it for this, but I wasn't thinking I would talk about it.
Yeah, because architecture, like, you know, I think it's a Masonic concept that architecture is sort of this like
Solomon's temple.
Yeah, like a divine art, right? Like the geometry in which your space is organized, and right, like
it's tantamount.
Right. Say we take a Kabbalistic perspective in a sense that everything is numbers, right? And we find this a lot, right? We hear it in Kabbalah. You know how say for example the Hebrew alphabet and its numerical equivalent values, like that, like those combinations are the sum of all things. And you know the goddess Saraswati in Vedic, you know, Shastra. That's like the letters and numbers and substance of all things of information are encoded upon this goddess, and she is the representation of that expression, right? So we get a lot of so architecture, let's say, utilizes those numerical patterns or those verbal patterns, in a sense, even to affect the consciousness of whoever walks in there. We were just talking about the Siena Cathedral actually earlier, with a friend was
here. Right before you came.
Yeah, right before, and like you walk into the Siena Cathedral, and the first thing you see on the floor is like a mosaic of Hermes Trismegistus, and I didn't see a single crucifix in that cathedral, you know, and there's these black and white stripes that was going on, you know, in like Tuscan, you see that in Florence as well, and it's really, I mean, it's so magical in there, and you're just like, whoa, you know, and you see it in cathedral architecture and stuff like that, how the space that you're in just takes you somewhere else, you know, and I would argue that cinema has a similar, I mean, quality. It's similar but different, right? We're talking about different categories of experience here, but with cinema, I mean, like there's something so magical about it that you can absorb yourself in something, right? Perhaps cinema is a little bit more participatory, whereas like architecture, you can actually dwell and move in space within an architectural structure.
I mean, the movie theater is kind of like the de facto church of today anyway.
Yeah.
Some would say it's the new satanic church.
Yeah.
And popcorn would be therefore
and then like the cinema will become like with these VR.
Oh, the VR thing? Yeah, I'm not into that.
Well, do you think like people will be eventually into that?
It's a little too goofy, I feel like. You know, it's like, you know what I mean?
I
it's
agree,
too,
but do you think the mainstream will be sold this idea someday, like in a few years? Like,
they would have to like really synthesize the tech of that to make it like weightless, you know?
And also there's a social element of movie going, you know? Like if you go see, like how can you go on a date with somebody with VR glasses on? You know what I mean? It's like can I take you to a movie? Is that going to be over? Is it like is cinema going to become this solitary, isolated? I don't play video games.
The board game?
Second Life.
Oh, Second Life. Yeah.
No, like it's.
I haven't thought about Second Life in a long time, actually.
Like I'm just saying, Second Life. Imagine it with the new technologies. Second Life is a game where like you create your avatar and you go to the movie theater with someone in a virtual setting. It's way
more for isolationism than it is. Obviously, you can meet people in this virtual space, but it's not for a the collective, like people would go to a movie theater and all get the same thing. But
wait, what is that zone that like people can buy real estate on and stuff, but it's not real? What do they call that again? Like my friends in LA,
and you can invest, right?
Yeah,
it's not the Facebook one, right?
I don't know. My friends were into this at some point. Like, oh, you can. It's like a meta reality. I forgot.
I mean, Facebook calls it Meta because they changed their name for all the problems they were having. It was like
I forgot what it was called, but people were like, "Oh, you can buy like real estate here in this world." I'm like, "Cool, I guess."
Yeah, it's really bothering me. I can't remember the name of that because it was only like a year ago.
Yeah,
too,
and people were really into it, but that's the thing. I mean, it's like there's a social element. Like I remember the first time I saw Pasolini.
Is it okay? I'm just like drinking this again. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw Salo, the Pasolini movie. I was alone. I was like 18 years old.
That's a scary one.
And I was like literally, I was like 18 years old, sitting on the edge of my bed in my little room in the East Village, and I watched Salo by myself. And when it was over, I sat on the edge of my bed and I just wept. I was like, oh my God, there was so much like that was fucking amazing. But like that suffering and like watching all that torture and pain. And then I remember, a couple years later, it was showing at several years later, probably maybe 10 years later, it was showing
Metrograph?
at Lincoln Center.
Oh, Lincoln
this is
Center.
before Metrograph existed.
Oh, nice.
And I remember I had to buy we didn't have smartphones at this time. I had to buy my ticket by like entering my credit card number on my touch tone flip phone, And I remember my friend Tom wanted to go see it at Lincoln Center, and I was like, boom, 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 as I was like buying the ticket, like because I was like, do I really want to go through this again? And then I went to Lincoln Center, and then I see my buddy Casey walking in the front row, and I see a bunch of people, and I'm watching the movie in an environment that other people are there, and it was a totally different experience. And I don't want to say it was desensitizing, because it wasn't, but it was like we were all going through something together, right? We were all experiencing this thing as one, and
that's how I feel about the apocalypse. It's like it's less scary if it's it's happening to everyone, So it's like, well, whatever. Yeah, we're all in it together. So
yeah, I mean, it's like death. It's like, well, look, there's not a single person that hasn't gone through this. So what am I going to do? Be a baby about it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're gonna live forever. What are you talking about?
No, it's like
my art teacher showed us at school. Was like forced us to watch. Everyone like there's like 3 people that just left. We're just like, I'm not watching.
Salo?
Yeah, in school. Like
how
old are you?
The shit eating scene?
Like 21.
Okay, well, yeah, that's old enough to watch.
The shit eating scene, is that when they left?
No, at the beginning.
Oh, at the beginning.
Like people were just like, they looked it up on their phone. What the fuck is
They're
this?
like, oh, hell.
They left during the credits because they read the Wikipedia. That's fucking stupid.
No, just say.
Yeah, I've only seen it once. So I'm like, I'm good
it.
for like the next 15 years, I believe. Like
what?
I've seen it once when I was like 20.
It's a scary rewatch.
Yeah, I don't.
But
I remember a review of it.
Gorgeous.
It's like it's a movie that had to be done, but like let's not redo it.
and
that would be hilarious to remake it.
And would you say that it's a superb movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would too. Would you?
I would say, yeah, it was well made. That I think
I'd call it a masterpiece.
Like that.
Pasolini, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Ostia,
Oh yeah, Ostia. Ancient. We were talking about ancient Ostia earlier, actually, as well. A friend of ours is going to Rome. Do you know about ancient Ostia?
No.
Ostia is where Pasolini was killed.
Pasolini was like very, very like famously murdered by the mafia there and
because
shot.
of what? Is there like?
I don't actually know the reason, but Abel Ferrara made a movie about it starring Willem Dafoe as Pasolini, which I have not seen.
I haven't seen that yet either, actually.
I haven't seen it. I heard it was bad. I'm not saying Abel Ferrara is obviously amazing.
Yeah.
And
I interviewed him once for the Roxy.
What, you did?
Yeah, we hung out at the. We hung
when
out
was
at the.
This?
A couple of years ago, I went.
Damn, why didn't you invite me?
I think I was. He's great.
I love Abel Ferrara.
Yeah, he's
so much.
He was so fun. We were just sitting at a booth in the Roxy, like.
No, he's like
having oysters. And
he seems like the best fucking scumbag you ever want to hang out with.
Yeah, because I love that movie where Lily Taylor plays the vampire.
Oh, The Addiction.
Yes. I love that movie. And I had just rewatched it and I was like, oh my God. And we were talking about it. He got that great performance with Lily Taylor, and everybody in that movie is superb. And it's basically.
I'm all about King of New York. That's my one. King of New York.
Oh, yeah.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah,
Seen
for
this?
sure.
It's so good.
It's
Which is it an old movie or?
It's 1991.
Yeah, in the early 90s.
Maybe 1993. One of those two.
It's a cool movie. It's
very like New York kind of crime, but it's like
stylish.
Lawrence Fishburne, the guy who plays Morpheus in The Matrix, he's like the ultimate fucking. It's like one of his best roles ever. Where he's like just a total psychopathic drug runner gang member, and he's dressed amazingly. He's got like the coolest sunglasses on, and I can't even really remember everything. I need to rewatch it honestly, but. Yeah, dude is versatile, Lawrence Fishburne.
But why do we bring up Pasolini?
Pasolini,
so Pasolini was run over by a car, and then they reversed it and ran back. It's like a Mars retrograde. It went over him, and then it went back.
Oh shit!
And then went over him again. I think it had something to do with his political agenda. Maybe
it was just for Solo, probably. They're like, get him.
I mean, in those, in countries like Italy and Latin America, what journalists and artists do is, they can be seen as a threat.
Absolutely.
by
everywhere here too.
I suppose so, but there's something kind of.
There's so much noise that you can't really tell, but I think people politically do care about what artists are doing.
There's something very sanitized about art here, and definitely about journalism here, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's nothing like over there. I mean, if you're Cuban, I'm Cuban. My family's Cuban. My mom, Wilfredo Cancio, my mom's boyfriend. The whole time I was in high school, he lived with us. He was a he's still a prominent film critic, and. In Cuba, I mean, you get thrown into jail like you get a parking ticket in New York. It's like normal. It's like shit, I went to jail. Like, damn it, I got a parking ticket. Everyone's always going. I did a performance
for being a film critic.
A journalist and artist. I did that performance with Tanya Bruguera. I had to be naked at the MoMA for like 3 months straight, and she. And,
I don't know what he's talking
and they
about.
knew each other, and
you were naked at the MoMA for 3 months straight.
Yeah, I did a performance. This Cuban performance artist.
Never
Tanya
told me about
Bruguera.
that.
It's
a nice fun.
It's like
is this pre the artist is present?
Yeah.
What's her face?
No, it was after the artist.
It was after
present.
that. Okay, yeah.
But I remember being like, Tanya was there, and I was like, I bet Wilfredo Cancio. She was like, oh my God, I had such a crush on him. I was like, dude, he's practically my stepfather. Oh, wow. And I called him. I was like, guess who I'm here with? And I put him on the phone with Tanya. But the thing is like, it's like the point of all this is that ancient Ostia is. Going back is basically an Alexandrian city, and you see there that everything was so sacred. Like everything they did in that culture was so sacred. I mean, I just got back from the British Museum. I was touring with. I was giving a tour today up there, and it's
Brooklyn Museum.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? British Museum.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, dude.
Yeah, I was just at the British Museum, and I zoomed right over here from Kennedy.
He drove right over from the British Museum.
Yeah.
It was a quick half hour.
Sorry, I was at the Brooklyn
Museum, not that far.
Gotta love that.
I don't know how long you've been in New York, but Brooklyn Museum.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't know like the reference points or.
How long have you been in New York?
Well, I don't live in New York.
No, how long have you been visiting?
Like one day.
You came from?
I was in British Columbia.
You came from Montreal?
Yeah.
Or is British Columbia is the West?
Montreal is like my hometown, but I've not been living there for like.
So you came for this?
Not just for this. I have a few podcasts, and then I'm going to Paris and I'm filming a few podcasts.
Oh wow! Great.
So he's in British Columbia, and I was at the British Museum.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
same thing.
but I was at the.
I want to after this. I want to talk about just for a minute the Great White North of Canada. I'm very interested in that for some reason, but whatever.
Okay, let's bookmark it real quick.
That's a bookmark.
Because I just want to say.
I'll hold that thought. I just want to talk about that later.
I was just at the Brooklyn Museum, and it's like, oh, these ritual vessels and these ritual jewels and these everything, every culture, China, Mesopotamia, fucking everybody. They've got all these ritual objects there, right? You go to ancient Ostia, where Pasolini happened to be run over, and it is a city actually, you know, kind of dug up by Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say Pasolini, Mussolini, and but it's you know, in Alexandrian time when Hermeticism was at its, like, you know, highest point. So instead of a bathhouse, it's called a temple to Poseidon. Instead of a tavern, it's called the Temple of Bacchus.
You see this here too, like in the central station, like that.
Grand Central Station. Because it's
Kronos or some Hermes.
Yeah, because it's
It was an ancient temple.
Hermes on the figurehead of the building, you mean?
Like in front of
the statue.
Yeah, there's a big naked sculpture of Mercury in front of Grand Central Station.
I say Hermes just because it's like that's like the god of mail and transportation, stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, Hermes is the Greek and Mercury's the Roman. So they are
in my mind are the same.
They are the same. Just different epithets based on culture. But the thing is,
a lot of that in New York.
And like the world's largest zodiac and the ceiling.
Yeah, because neoclassicism draws on these ideologies that Renaissance architecture was based on, and definitely Alexandrian art, right? Mm-hmm. Like cities like ancient Ostia, they built sacred spaces for like. It wasn't a tavern. It was a temple of Bacchus. Then you have the school of Neoplatonism, and next door is the temple where the cult of Eros worshipped the nymphs, and there's the fountain there. And I almost threw up, actually. I was there by myself. It's like I was so moved, and I wept.
In what way?
Because everything was so sacred. They understood the sanctity and the spiritual dimension of everything that they did. And that is why in the Renaissance, when they, you know, you go to Rome, you go to Milan, anywhere you go, there's a book by Mary Quinlan McGrath, University of Chicago. She's an art historian. She is not an astrologer. And, you know, the Medici, the Sforza, the Borgia, all those families, anytime they built a palazzo, they were sure that the ruler of the ascendant of that prince was on the ascendant, exalted, whatever, right? Say somebody had, whatever, you got Gemini rising, right? They would wait until Mercury was either in Gemini or Virgo maybe, and they would wait until the moon was applying to it from a place where the moon was strong, and all this. Every single building there is an astrological talisman. There's a sacred dimension to they understood, they imbued their architecture with the spiritual dimension that coexists with the cosmic configurations, which are just as much a part of nature as the weather is.
They just understood our nature better, our threefold nature.
Well, that we're not disconnected from what is external to us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's.
But I want to ask you, because you said you were very moved by this. Is it because I feel like when you're moved by something, because there's a big contrast between like reality and like whatever it's in your mind, while you're in this space and you're being surrounded by this old history, and it contrasts with what's going on now? Is that something that you can say, like in your life, you recognize that there's not enough intention made for like everything, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. It felt like an honor to be there, right? Because it just felt so sacred, It felt like, oh my God, I'm in a place where people understood the cosmic dimension of everything they did, the universal significance. Every act was a sacred act, you might say. Okay, and I know what you're getting at. You're saying that how does that contrast from now? Yes, people now do not recognize a spiritual dimension to anything. Okay, people say. I remember a colleague of mine was on ABC News or something, and they had her, and then they had a woman who was a scientist, and they were talking about Mercury retrograde and how it doesn't make any sense. And I can't remember what my colleague said, something about this, and then the scientist comes on and she's like, there's no way that the movement of a rock, blah, 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 is affecting you. And I would have said, my response would have been, look, if you don't think you're using astrology, you're fucking stupid. Like, what's a year to you? That is how long it takes the Earth to revolve around the sun. What is a month? That is the lunar revolution. What is the week? The 4 phases of the moon. Why are there 7 days in a week? There are 7 visible planets, and the days of the week are named for those 7 visible planets. Why do the days on the calendar go in the order in which they go? Because you divide that day into 24 hours, and then you give the next day to the planet that is next in the Chaldean order. And that is why Monday comes after Sunday, and Tuesday comes after Monday, and every motherfucker is using that. They're using astrological magic, and the astrological magicians talking about at the planetary hour of Jupiter, Marsilio Ficino or Pico della Mirandola telling you to eat a peach at the hour of Jupiter, or take exercise at the hour of the sun. They did this. They understood this. Our calendar is still based on this cosmic totality that's there, and a tree or a piece of agriculture or an animal. I mean, what is the farmer's almanac but the movement of the sun and moon and all this, right? The agriculture, it is useful for agriculture to know the movements of the sun and moon. What's so insulting to say that we are similar to plants, that we are just as susceptible as plants are to the nature that extends outside of our planetary sphere, and why shouldn't we be subject to those things? And guess what? Whether you like it or not, you're basing, if you don't think you're using astrology, then go to work on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like you're using planetary configurations to plan and time everything you do. Do you want to do that with some level of awareness or participation, or do you want to dumbly go about it and pretend that Mercury's a big rock and that there isn't a link between you and the surroundings around you, right? Which circles back to architecture.
Do you think there's like a global psyop to make astrology a little bit too out there?
I think it started with Descartes. I think it started with the industrialization of the human mind, that a connection with nature and the cosmos became unfashionable. It became unsophisticated. It became unacademic, and that is why academic institutions reject this sort of thing. They're fucking morons about this. I mean, I went to the Guggenheim when they went at the opening for the Hilma Klint thing that they had for 9 months there. It was the longest show in Guggenheim history. But anyways, I went to and watching all these academics talk about Theosophy, they don't acknowledge a spiritual dimension to existence. Yeah. Neither does conventional science.
This is a good point I think we can elaborate on, because that specific show for me was a very meaningful one. I came to New York, I didn't know it was on. I went to the Guggenheim and there it was. And for me, it was very big inspiration, because as an artist in the world, spiritual art, it's two things. It becomes very materialistic. Art has become very materialistic from the old times where art was sacred in churches and it was designed to invoke a specific quality and everything. And now we're so far from that. And then seeing this in one of the most famous museums in the world, for me was a line was drawn, This is before and this is after. And I feel it opened a portal for what we're doing now. We're discussing this for the podcast, for Rosenbrough, for all these entities that will work through us to create something in the world.
That was one of the last times I went to the Guggenheim myself, actually. I haven't been there since. When was that, 2018?
It actually kind of ruined Hilma af Klint for me, because every time I'd open my Instagram,
she's so big now.
9 months after it opened, I'd be like, another Hilma af Klint, you're just seeing that exhibition.
They're also
now.
this woman invented the occult. Can you believe it?
Yeah, and they were talking about Theosophy as though it was some academic thing, and I raised my hand and asked a question. I was like, did you ever consider that possibly the spiritual or the visionary experience that she had induced by her interest in Theosophy might have had something to do with this kind of imagery? And everybody was like, and I'm like, they ignore this. You know, I mean, Marco Passi is an exception. He's maybe one of the only scholars I know who's really effectively able to bridge that gap between, you know, occultism and.
But you still see like that this created like a line, and now that it feels like it's more accessible to bring spiritual art in galleries, in the spaces, and actually talk about it, because I think all art is spiritual, but it's just not unacknowledged.
Sort of.
Yeah, I guess to a certain extent, for sure. Like in terms of like in the most superficial, materialistic way, it's like collectors are more interested in people who are interested in that sphere of things in general.
But still, like if money
still,
is there,
I don't see anyone talking about Leonora Carrington that much, or Remedios Varo. I'd rather like they get like a whole show to Google.
Yeah, Leonora Carrington and Remedios Varo, like that's like some of the best surrealist art is all Hispanic women. It's the best shit. Leonora Carrington. When I was 16 years old, there was a show. My mother was volunteering as a tour guide at the art museum in Miami. Actually, it's funny, and there was a show of women surrealists, and I was like, it was so hard to get a book of Remedios Varo. It was hard. It's back then we didn't have the internet. We had, you know, we did, but it was like not. And so
was it the 90s?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, oh man, I really want a Remedios Varo book for Christmas. You know, it's like, her stuff is so great. But that's the thing. Occultism is like, I'm trying to think what's a good metaphor. It's like, occultism is like disco. Sometimes it's chic, sometimes it's out, right? Sometimes everybody wants that like thing happening, and like that's like, you know, it's like, okay, Kylie Minogue can come out with like a disco jam, right? Pop can embrace disco, and other times so it's not cool. Other times it's like everybody, you know, wants like punk or EDM or something else, right? But then once in a while everyone's like, no, disco's chic again.
But when you say a while, it's like 200 years.
No, I'm talking like every 4 years.
Yeah, every 4 years. Sounds like
yeah. And
like,
so,
what about the bigger trends? Like,
and so, but that's the way occultism sort of is. In 1 minute it's acceptable and interesting, and another minute it's not. 1 minute
but still overall these like they go up. I think like right now the trend we're at the bottom, and I feel like it's the beginning of like an upward trend.
Okay.
By necessity.
Then
because the world is getting destroyed.
Then what do you think was the last time, if you're talking in those terms, right? Because Kenneth Anger, for example, there's times that he would get, may he rest in peace. There was times that he was getting a lot of attention, and other times that no one cared, right? So when do you think was the last peak in cultural interest in esotericism and occultism, if you think that the timeline is broad?
I guess I'm not talking about this esotericism and occultism specifically. I'm talking about more spirituality. That's fine. Let's use spirituality. When do you think was the last peak in cultural embracing of spirituality?
Well, like 60s, 70s?
The Renaissance.
Oh, the Renaissance, okay. I was thinking like the New Age movement of the 60s, 70s, maybe like...
Well, I think it's from...
That was a poor man's version.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying I'm a subscriber. I'm just...
But it was more mainstream. It was part of daily life, because you knew these temples were dedicated to those gods, and you would see them every day, or not necessarily every day, but they would be part of your culture, of your day-to-day. And now it's more and more separate, and there's a more disconnection. Like the occult is something external, and we, you know... or not even known that there's something hidden, you know?
Yeah, and it's important to keep in mind that we're talking about Western culture. In India, it never went away.
Yeah.
Like in India, there's an unbroken line of astrological practice. It was never... practicing astrology was never going to get you burned at the stake or like thought of as uncool in India.
And the reason I'm asking in this also is because like I really feel that there's a lot going on in the world, in the world psyche right now, and that there is some tendencies that we artists kind of are picking up on. And I've been asking so many people about these questions because I want to see different perspectives on it. Like, do you feel like there is actually, like I was talking about Hilma af Klint and her show, for me I saw it like as a big symbol of something, a world symbol of like spiritual art. Of course, it's still in the very cheesy. Like it's still very.
I mean, full respect to her though.
Her. I do appreciate her work.
100% respect.
I'm just saying how people perceive her is not integrated. They don't see her for really her soul. They see her for like the beautiful images she creates. But I'm still saying, it is a symbol of something that is opening up, I find.
I think people admire Hilma af Klint because way before her time, she made diagrams that now we accept as commonplace New Age motifs.
Right.
And because she's a visionary. Like right?
Yeah, she invented her own language.
So everybody's like, whoa, like the thing that like the bad hippie made at this like crystal store in Big Sur, this looks just like that. And it's from the it's
Was it from the 30s, 40s?
I think it was like from the 1910s, right? Homoklest?
Oh, is it like?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because it was like early Theosophy. So yeah, it's like it's before even like Art Deco. Hilma af Klint's making this kind of stuff, but it's because she had like her mind was able to function in this like alchemical and iconographic way that she was able to kind of like sense these universal realities and give them some kind of pictorial representation, right? So that's Hilma af Klint. But I think yes and no. I know what you're asking. You're asking, do you think that we are on that because things are so bad in certain ways that there's a kickback of spirituality becoming emergent? I don't know. We always had there's always been this kind of like apocalyptic war going on between that stuff. It's like you had, in the 1950s you had all these straight-laced people, but then you also had Kenneth Anger and William S. Burroughs, and then during late 70s that everybody wanted this like hyper masculine minimalist art and stuff like that, but then you had throbbing gristle and chaos magic and stuff like that happening. So there's always a kickback and there's always a dichotomy. And I will say this, the fact that the fact that there's so many translations now of Hellenistic and Arabic and all these magical texts that were not available in English before, that the fact that that's been uncovered, that does feel a little bit like a Philip K. Dick kind of like, oh shit, like something woke up. Yeah. It does feel that way. And the fact that Jyotish and Vedic astrology and teachers like Austin and Freedom and Param Guruji are walking the earth right now, that it's a special, that's happening for sure. And I don't want to discredit that, but am I thinking in like messianic terms that like we're entering some new quasi-Aquarian age? I don't think so. I think things are going to keep on trucking.
Okay, you don't see like that there's a movement. Do you think it's just continuing in the same direction it was already? I mean, I think astrology is more popular than before, but I also see a lot of like low-grade astrology. I see it. Just because something's popular doesn't mean it's high quality. I see more it like if it populates the minds of the masses, there is some emergence of something. Because that's how spirit works, right? It works with the mind. So if that spark of astrology, even though they don't understand it, it's an interest. Just means that something is collectively awakening. That's how I see it. Like when it becomes mainstream, there's a reason why it becomes mainstream, because it was available for the minds to absorb this energy.
I understand what you're saying, and I've had a conversation with this Caitlin Kopic, a really skilled astrological magician. She has she makes talismanic stuff on Sphere and Sundry, and she was saying, like, oh yeah, it's Uranus in Neptune in Pisces, because Neptune is in Pisces, right? There's this opening up, and before that, Uranus was in Pisces, and we had we had all this like acid house and freak beat stuff and kind of like psychedelic throwback. But then, but she says but when Uranus passes out of Pisces, then only the real people will stay. Like the people that sort of picked up on it as a pop culture trend, they don't maybe have the integrity or the connection to really like stick to it? What do you think?
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, obviously, like, I do think we are at the precipice of like a new, like the dawning of a new era in terms of like a social awakening. But I also feel like it could actually be more of a, like, have a huge negative impact instead of a positive one. And
But like for now, but what about over time?
I don't really know. It's a good question.
Yeah, because sometimes like it's like the tower and the tarot.
I'm like a fatalist and almost like I'm not a prophet. I just love to think about prophecy and everything like that. So I'm like, is this it?
How do you think people are waking up though?
How do I think they're waking up?
Yeah. Or how would you characterize the awakening that you sense?
Well, just that the fact that it's like in the Western public, sort of, you know, whereas before it was like a parlor trick, you know, and not something that like was considered like an entire lifestyle and sort of like an identitarian thing, like, you know. But I don't even practice or think about astrology, so I'm not even sure if we're talking about the occult.
I don't think
the occult in general.
Just the occult in general. I will say, like, I think it can tend to be a bit unhealthy for like everyone to be partaking in it, and maybe not trying to be like an elitist about it, but it should be reserved for people who, like, you know, can wield it. You know, it like engineering or architecture or something like that. Like, you know, you should have to like actually
have training.
Yeah, real training. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because if not, then you get like a scary mob of demonic behavior, and like, you know, you can't control a mob in any form whatsoever.
Occultism should be mainstream. I think what I was saying is more like becoming aware of that, you know, people are usually more on an automatic pilot, like most of the time. Becoming aware that there is some forces that are exerting power on you without necessarily having the passion to go dig deeper, but feeling it collectively, like, oh, there is like, for me, awakening is like becoming conscious of the subconscious. So you're starting to pick up on the patterns that are exerting power over you that you did not know about. And I feel like more, anyways, in my communications with people around me, I do sense that there is this interest in learning about yourself, and for me, that's the biggest step in raising consciousness, is people inquiring, oh shit, why have I been doing this all my life? Like asking that simple question.
I feel like people are obsessed with trauma though. Like I feel like this learning about yourself is, everybody's like, oh, it's because of trauma. And then people get obsessed with healing, and then that's like, trauma is important, but is it everything? You know, is it like to me, trauma, one of my teachers said something really brilliant the other day, Austin, about this. He's like, is trauma everything, or is it an obstacle to the everything that you're trying to do?
Well, that's why it's important.
Right? So things like Rahu, yeah, but if I'm living my life and I focus only on the obstacle, what kind of life is that going to be?
Oh, of course.
Yes. See, so the attention that trauma receives and the focus that I think people put on it, and seeing an occultist as a healer is a little problematic. You know, I think people are waking up in a sense. Like, for example, you know, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I think that's awesome. Like, I think he's great. I do. I think that, like, his books are. Do you like them?
Yeah, I read one of them.
They're good. I read them both. Actually, like, multiple times. But I was like, I remember when my mom had an extra copy at her house one day years ago, and I read it, and I was like, this is so great. And I finished reading it on the plane, and I like started meditating, and immediately I was like, zhunk. I was like, whoa, that book had an effect on me, you know? So the fact that book can be a bestseller.
Which book?
He wrote a book called The Power of Now and a book called A New Earth. And I read A New Earth first, I think. And the fact that
I've read neither of these.
They're good.
I had no idea.
And the fact that like that book could be on Oprah's book club and a bestseller, that demonstrates to me that yes, people.
Is it the same guy as The Secret?
No.
No? Okay.
The Secret
The Secret is what?
The Secret's whack.
Whack.
Yeah, it's very simplistic and.
It's kind of culty and
Well, yeah, it does have a little bit of a Scientology kind of vibe to it.
yeah, and like it's like oh, positive thinking. I don't really believe in that. I think when you obsess over shit, it doesn't happen for you. You have to forget.
Yeah, I agree.
Like if you have a desire, you got to kind of let that desire go.
And isn't that also the approach of Vedic astrology? It's not about negativity, positivity. They're just extremes. And Vedic astrology is just about finding the center, and that's what I'm about. Rosenberg also. You don't want to be hyper positive. You don't want to be hyper negative. You just want to be aware of what the tendencies are, and not just react to like whatever comes your way, and always being in reaction mode.
Do you know the terms Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva? So Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. In you practice Jyotish, right?
Yeah.
By the way, who's your?
Jaydev, you know Jaydev?
I think I do. Is he like thin and he's got big eyes?
Yeah, big beard.
Oh, that guy, the guy with the big beard.
Yeah, big beard.
Okay, yeah.
You learned from him personally?
No, not personally. I was in his. He does like group things, so it was not one-on-one. It was like more this
Oh, I see.
group.
But like in person?
No person. I have my spiritual mentor that is more into magic and Eastern practices also.
Who's the mentor?
Amir Murad is his name.
Amir Murad. Where is he based?
He's based in Montreal. He's from Egypt. He was born in Egypt.
That's cool. I'm truly not a student of the occult, like whatsoever. Very.
Yeah, like I'm not in it. For me, like, and that.
I'm like a wandering Jew that's like about it,
I feel like that's what's coming in the future. Like if I were to give an energy to what I sense is coming, is true individuality, and this is being connected to your sun in astrology, to your soul, which guides you towards everything you need. Like you don't need to study one thing and it'll give you all the answers. It's more like just becoming aware of that intuition and where it's guiding you, and learning from it until your soul is like, okay, you got what you need from there, and you become like, you start creating your own mythology. Your life becomes a mythology that then becomes useful to society in a very specific way. And for me, that is like pure individuality. It's not egoistic. You're doing what you like and you're passionate about because it's awakening your spark, it's awakening your connection with something bigger than you, that has a better understanding of all the moving pieces. So it can tell you might think you have to go there, but there's actually something coming there and that would be bad for you. So if you were just aligned, you'll go exactly in your own path with your own flavor, with your own unique tastes, and you'll be of service with that specificness.
I feel that hard.
Yeah, you'll be operating. And you said you're not a cultist, but you're definitely you're very receptive to occult.
I feel like I'm eclectic. Like I'll take whatever is I'm drawn to.
You're very authentic. Like I don't know you from a long time, but just from the discussion we're having, you're really connected to who you are, and you will follow what feels right without doubting, too much doubt, because doubt is a very bad enemy.
Well, I'm a humongo self-doubter.
No,
so.
but I mean, like the fact that you're collecting all these things, and like, I mean, it just feels like you're doing what you're passionate about. I don't know, from what I'm observing.
He's driven by a force. You know what I mean? And you do experience, like, he understands mystery.
My collecting demons.
Like he might not be like a scholar, or like educated at these levels of occultism, but he understands. I mean, Hilma of Klint, was she a scholar of anything?
Yeah.
Probably, she was a theosophist, but I mean, theosophy, you know what I mean? It's
that's the thing that
you can do your own program with theosophy.
Theosophy has its pros and cons. Let's just say that, okay? And it had a very short time to develop theosophy, okay? But nonetheless, no matter how she was trained, she had vision, right? And Ben has that, and he also has like. You've got crazy knowledge. Like he's got crazy knowledge. Like walking around downtown with Ben, he's like, "Oh, whoa, look!" And you find this like crazy passage.
That's why I like his Instagram, because it's always showing like these different things, and that's what I do too. I travel, and then I can like travel with you or like sing with you.
Yeah, and he like reveals the beauty in something that like you might not have seen before. You know, it's like he'll show you something and you're like, oh shit, that is amazing, and like I never noticed that. So you know, it's like that's esoteric. That's the ability to sense like the underlying quality or perfection of something and demonstrate it. So I'm not talking about, you know, that necessarily, but what you're talking about is like, I really, there's that show Carnival. They talk about
Carnival.
Super underrated show, by the way. That show is excellent.
That show is great, yeah.
It's so good. And they talk about how there's always, at all times, there's a war between good and evil happening. I don't believe that it's that black and white. Something that you think is evil, I might think is good. And, you know, like if my buddy's dismantling a bomb that's underwater in Guam because he's in the Navy, I'm sure the guy who put that bomb there thinks he's pretty evil for messing up his bomb, right? But who's right? Nobody's right? It's all perspective. So
what are you referring to with that? Is that true?
I'm saying that I don't believe in I'm a non-dualist. I don't think that there's evil.
No, I just mean like literally. What are you referring to with the water bomb?
I have a friend who dismantled bombs in Guam.
Who is putting water bombs in Guam?
There's
eco-terrorists?
I saw a video of it. There's it looked like a big chaos cross. There was this like black iron sphere with big spikes sticking out of it. And my friend was scuba diving, and it's a bomb that those spikes could come flying out at you any minute. And
my first painting had one of those bombs. I drew that intuitively.
Do you know what those bombs are? Have you seen them before?
You mean those like mines from like World War II? That's like on the chain that like floats?
Yeah, no, it wasn't floating. It was submerged. But anyway,
what the hell?
Take my word for it. I'll show you the video.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I don't know, but also like, wouldn't a bomb detonating underwater, like, you know, physics are different obviously in water, so it's like I don't think it would actually shoot any projectiles out that intensely, you know.
It would still blow you to bits. There would be more resistance because it's in water, not like air, but a big spike traveling.
Is it like the beach?
Traveling at you at any speed.
Is it the beach? Where was this? I'm so curious.
You're like really.
I'm just derailing.
You're driving us down a.
I'm
really
completely derailing your point. I'm like, no.
I just want to say that
okay, I'm sorry.
Like my perspective is non-dualist. I don't believe that there is an ultimate good and an ultimate evil. I don't. I think that if you think that, you're a little small-minded because, you know, like the good guys and the bad guys. It depends. You know, it like. If ISIS blows up a temple that's beautiful and old, that's really going to depress me. But ISIS thinks they're doing it because it's good and it's holy and it's noble. And who am I to really say that they're wrong? I don't think they're right, but that's me. You know, so
yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's like you got to have a broad scope, right? You've got.
It's like I can always see where people are coming from.
Yeah,
on the in an argument sort of sense as well.
But it feels like that's like the difference between horizontal thinking, you know, which is good and bad, and vertical thinking, like seeing that the verticality of our consciousness is for me more accurate than flipping it onto the time aspect.
It's multi-dimensional thinking, right? You see things as and what you have an exalted Jupiter conjoined the moon and Ketu, like a strong Jupiter in your chart, that's going to give you philosophical scope and spiritual depth. You're going to be able to philosophically examine things with a broader view. You know, I have an exalted Jupiter too in the 10th house. So it's like I'm able to see. I'm not saying I agree with ISIS blowing up that temple. That makes me really depressed and want to hate them. But
do you mean Temple Jonah or Persepolis or
They blew up this awesome temple that had these lions out front, and I was like, I can't believe that.
Persepolis?
I think maybe it was that one.
Yeah, it was Persepolis.
I was so pissed.
Yeah, I remember reading the headline about that, but then apparently there was a secondary headline that said that it wasn't actually as damaged as it was originally reported. So
really?
Apparently it might actually still be fine, weirdly, because I feel like ISIS, they weren't that stupid, you know, like they were definitely iconoclastic with like destroying of idolatry and stuff, and they definitely nuked the hell out of the Prophet Jonah's temple. But I heard that Persepolis is actually not as damaged as what originally was reported. But the Temple of Jonah was like turned into dust. You know, and it was like
Disintegrated.
just gone. But there was actually a weird silver lining to that one where they went after ISIS was driven out of, I forget actually where that was, but they were driven out, and archaeologists went in to just like scope the scale of destruction, which was like, you know, almost 100%. But they actually discovered something completely brand new, which was like a whole system network of tunnels right beneath Jonah's temple, which is like, you know, that would not have gotten to that point had it not been completely nuked.
And maybe there's another temple underneath.
And there's probably another temple underneath. There's stuff down there, so that's.
So you can see the good in the
Yeah,
situation.
there's a good in it, but it's not all bad, but it's pretty bad.
They blew up that, but then we found this Gnostic temple.
Poor
underneath,
Jonah.
right? Like,
Poor Jonah,
Yeah,
you know?
like every.
Jonah was just disintegrated in 2020 or in 2019 or whatever, you know, when that happened.
Like every Roman cathedral has a Mithraic temple in the basement.
Yeah,
like, it's
totally.
Like, you can't dig a hole in Rome because they're like, oh shit, there's a hole. Like,
We'll see.
yeah, exactly.
Very layer of the white worm.
Yeah, and well,
style.
that's why Ostia is really cool because you get to see that, and you know, so I don't think that there's any.
Speaking of that Mussolini comment before about him,
He did do that though. Yeah.
no, him unearthing all these things.
Yeah.
And everything. You know about the Nemi, the Caligula's Nemi ships. His pleasure. He had these two massive,
Yes.
beautiful pleasure cruises.
Yeah.
They were more like barges because
Yeah.
like it's in a lake, so it can't really go anywhere.
You showed me a diagram. The
diagrams are incredible.
Or an etching of that. Yeah, how there were these like pleasure ships.
And
that-
speaking of my collecting, I was like, I don't know why, but I'm very interested in nails, like old iron rod or handmade nails. And I was like, I just keep looking at this thing every other day. I'm like, should I get these? Apparently there's like, and this is impossible for so many reasons. Like, and I don't want to believe it, but I do want it so badly. There's like 4 nails that were supposedly like the wood that they hammered into like the copper plating of the bottom part of the Nemi vessels. So it was like what actually would like, I don't know, keep water from seeping into the actual wood of it, I think. And that's like very, very insanely rare because all the Nemi vessels were not nuked, they were bombed in World War II. So they were like, there's almost nothing left of them, you know, and Mussolini found the remains, but then they were bombed by the Allies and everything. So it's like, it's actually super rare. This is something I think about a lot in terms of my collecting.
It's interesting. Like I wonder what's your karmic history to be so interested with all those like mysteries from the past, but actually involved in the materiality of them. You know, not just reading about it, but you want to like see and feel the pieces, and that's interesting. Like I'm curious too.
Yeah, I kind of want to do like some DIY archaeology, which is, I'm pretty sure, 100% illegal, you know. Anytime I go to like a place that has like a truly ancient history, like America has an ancient history, but like it's been...
Yeah, Turkey for me was so reviewed.
Oh yeah, Turkey is incredible.
You go anywhere, like I was on my motorcycle and I would just like go on Google Maps and like see something and go on a little trail on my scooter. And I would find like an old temple that's half buried, that's never been like excavated. And that was like so fascinating. And you go exploring the tombs or the underground cities that are like touristy.
What is that called again? The underground...
The name of it?
Yeah, it's like something with a C.
I don't remember the name.
Oh, the map is incredible.
Like in Turkey and
it's like Alien or something. It's like ant people or something.
Yeah,
Really?
It's an underground city underneath Turkey. It's like beyond.
It's like a city that can hold like I think 10,000 people or something
underneath Turkey. Yeah.
There's like temples in there. There's like all this thing.
Yeah, I forget the name. It's not Cappadocia, which is the troglodyte housing in Turkey. Yeah. I would love to check that out.
This. Like
I want to go to Turkey too because the exchange rate is crazy right now. It's like $1 US is like 37 lira.
Yeah.
So if you have $1,000, you have $37,000 in Turkey right now. You can get a house.
But is the buying power strong?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, that's like, it's like, you know, like 1,000 yen isn't that much money either.
No, I think
it is. Yeah, it's like you can buy a house right now with like $2,000.
2020.
1,000 yen.
No, not 1,000 yen. I mean like
But I'm saying just because the number is big doesn't mean that the
No. I know what you're saying. It's not like yen where they're counting pennies. 1 USD equals to like the equivalent of 37. You know.
Okay, so
1 lira is not a penny, whereas a yen is a penny. A lira is like a dollar.
Yeah, it's like strong against that, right?
Right, but I don't know how they're actually like, you know, in terms of when things are inflated, they'll actually just like price gouge shit of because just to equal out, you know.
Like the pound used to be like 2.5, now it's 1.2.
Yeah, for sure.
The pound is like the euro now.
Yeah.
It's like monopoly money, basically.
Turkey is a wonderful place to find mysteries.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot that is not even found yet. That so much in there like this.
I actually really wanted to. I like submitted an architectural proposal that was not realistic in any way, shape, or form, but they were having like a competition to like make an observation deck at not Mount Nemrut with the beautiful you've been there, the mountaintop tomb, but there's a Nemrut caldera, which is like a collapsed volcano that has a lake, which is very cool. I think it's actually probably close by, you know, same Nemrut like Nimrod, you know, but the one you're talking about with the sculptural heads on it, so cool.
Yeah.
How did you get there? Like,
it's a hike.
It's a hike, yeah.
Like there's I forget I think like you can drive to one part of it and then you hike the rest.
Oh yeah.
Or it's not that big of a hike. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like that. This is on top of the mountain, and again, it brings back to like their vision of time and space and spirituality. Right? They want it at the top, almost like an antenna that looks over the people and is activated. You know, everything was understood in its frequency and its subtle energy.
Yeah, that mound on top of the mountain is all like man-made too. It's like pretty incredible. I always wanted to go there, and I think it's also weirdly related to like the ancient Jewish what's it called, story of Hanukkah. You know, I forget who are the Jews fighting the Maccabees, or are the Jews the Maccabees? The Jews are the Maccabees.
I'm not sure.
Whoever the Maccabees are fighting in the Hanukkah story, like it's the Nemrut mound is the son of the general of whoever was fighting the Jews during the Hanukkah story.
And don't the Maccabees... I went to a Jewish preschool. I remember the songs about Hanukkah. Haman and the Hashaver, Mordecai and Esther.
Yeah, I don't even know that one.
Okay,
Why are you more Jewish than I am?
But I'm from Miami, so... but then what about the Maccabees? Don't they figure into Masonic lore as well?
Masonic is mad Jewish in general.
Is it?
I think it's a bit of a Nazi sentiment to be like correlating Freemasonry and Judaism, but like I personally see a connection as well, where they're obsessed with Solomon's temple.
Yeah.
They use a bunch of Jewish symbolism with the candelabra, the lion, and stuff like that, in different temples.
The Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, Western esotericism in general, I gotta say, like Hebrew Kabbalah is kind of the backbone of it.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, if you're going to categorize Western esotericism the way that it's commonly used, you know, Hebrew Kabbalah is a big
One of these days,
at least it used to be.
One of these days, I'm going to go to the Kabbalah Center on a Friday or Sunday and hang out with Madonna.
Dude, I went to...
You know, Madonna goes like is it Saturday or Sunday?
So,
it's Saturday, right?
I don't know, but I went...
Kabbalah Center, is it Rav Tev or something like that?
Look, all I know about the Kabbalah Center is that one day when I was like a kid, like 24 or something, I was like, oh, I'm going to check it out. And I signed up for this free thing to go. But then I was like, I don't feel like going there.
I bought the books because I had read one.
Oh, they sold you the Sefer Yetzirah for like $300?
No, it's Rav Tev. He's like a scholar, a mystic scholar on the Kabbalah. And he writes books that are very simplistic, but the one I really liked, he describes the Hebrew letters, but from the perspective of like God choosing the right letter to create.
So which letter, and then they kind of go present their qualities. Every letter presents itself to God. Can I be chosen for creation? And God is like, no, because your role is this, and if I use you, this evil can win in the end. And then there's like, Shin, the letter Shin is like good and evil, and then in the center it should be balanced, but no, it's going one side. And Shin is like the balancer, so that transmutes evil into good. And there's like you can understand all the esoteric qualities of the letters.
Shin is the mother letter of fire in the. I study like Hermetic Kabbalah, let's say.
Yeah.
So that's going to be different from what they do at the Kabbalah Center.
Well, but if it's the same Kabbalah Center in New York, and they have others like around the world.
Right.
in Midtown.
It's like mega church of Kabbalah basically.
I've never been inside.
And I was going to go to one of
these days though.
Okay, here's why I don't think highly of the Kabbalah Center. I'll tell you. I was gonna go and I signed up for this thing. It's like, a free talk, blah blah blah, and I was like, the time I don't know. I was like, maybe I was in college. No, I was thinking I was 23, and I was like, I don't really feel like going, so I just didn't go. It was like Scientology. I got phone calls. I got stuff in the mail. They never left me alone.
Oh
and
my God.
I was like, are you that desperate for me to come to your meeting that you're like calling me? I'm like 24 years old. I'm like, leave me alone, please. Don't call me anymore. Yeah. So that's why I'm kind of like.
That's how they got Madonna.
I'm like, Kabbalah Center. I'm like, if they're gonna act that way, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was.
I don't know the reputation right there. I just like the books.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't actually know anything about the reputation whatsoever.
Have you heard of Alice Bailey?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Alice Bailey, like I'm reading her books, and it for me, like when the first book I read, I was just like,
What's it called? God damn it, it's killing me now. The UN religion that she invented.
Alice Bailey?
Isn't it Alice Bailey?
UN religion?
Yeah, there's a religion.
You're talking about Rudolf Steiner.
No, not Rudolf Steiner.
Their HQs is in the UN.
I'm trying to remember that. Wow, really can't remember.
Unitarianism?
No, it's close, but the logo is sort of like almost like a trident with like a circle and like a kind of slash through it.
Well, is it the Lucis?
Lucis Trust, that's it. Yeah. That's their religious, That's their religion,
That's their
I got a bunch of mailers from them actually because I'm like, can I have some free stuff? And then they just kept sending me mailers. I love the logo, but it's like, I feel like they're...
But they didn't harass you, right?
No, they didn't harass me. They didn't harass me for money.
The Kabbalah Center harassed me.
I really like their approach of Alice Bailey and her mentor, because a lot of things is channeled.
Who is her mentor?
Well, she's channeled.
Is it Blavatsky?
No, she was influenced by her. I'd say they might even know each other.
Isn't it Alice Bailey who kind of like, or is it Blavatsky to the Theosophical Society?
It was Blavatsky that did the Theosophical Society.
Right.
I think Bailey was influenced by her, but she was like her own
channeler. She was trained in Tibet by someone there.
Yeah.
But then she opened the channel, and the whole idea of that they teach their members is how to open their own channels to become their own being, to become their soul, and connect with the master.
Which is the same thing yoga teaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have just a specific approach that is linked more. It's more contemporary, right?
Or it's more Western.
Not necessarily. There's a lot of meditation.
To become your own master, huh?
Yeah, to connect with your master, you are always connected with it.
But why is yoga not contemporary though?
Well, first of all, yoga is so big because there's different branches of it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's not contemporary because it's not adapted for fast-paced living. It's adapted more for isolated, long-term, over multiple lifetimes,
Okay, so you mean that system was more suited to a lifestyle that maybe is a little more Western.
Yeah, exactly.
Transcendental meditation is
So they kind of adapted this 30 minutes per day. You have to do this specific practice.
Oh, triangles. That's exactly what they were trying to get me to do.
Yeah,
triangles is what they call when you and two other partners choose a specific time of day to meditate, and you're supposed to be creating a triangle together anywhere in the world.
Mental triangle.
And they gave me a pin, they gave me a patch, they gave me a nice little poster. of that. And
That
I'm
sounds
like,
fun, and I didn't get any paraphernalia.
I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not saying it was evil, but I'm getting like New World Order energy from this weirdly, just because of their like UN affiliation and stuff like that.
I thought the same thing, but then I looked when it was founded, and it felt like maybe when UN was still like good.
Perhaps.
I mean, I feel like everything is good at its origin.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it gets fucked up.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to keep things together, you know. And Kabbalah Center is like I don't know. It's
I'm not sure if UN was ever good.
To me, it's taking something that's esoteric and trying to market it at like a mega church level. And
which one right now?
Kabbalah Center.
Yeah, okay.
And if they had treated me with a little more class,
dude, they're coming for you now.
They can. Hey.
Kabbalah Center. Micki's coming.
Remember me from back in 2022? I'm still alive. So, and I live at the same address actually. If you want to send me,
they're gonna send me Donna.
I want a pin. I want a triangle. I want posters.
That's Lucis Trust.
Yeah, I want everything that Lucis Trust does. So,
you just write in a letter.
I want a bracelet.
No, you email them actually.
And I don't want it made out of anything cheap.
You can have mine. How about that?
But no, I'm talking to Kabbalah Center. If they want to come after me,
honestly,
I want a swag.
If you want to get me into your religion, make some merch. And I'll be
merch.
Like, woo!
Yeah,
I love some merch.
Kabbalah Center was not really classy with me, and you know, my background is in Hermetic Kabbalah and you know, the actual source texts. So, and you know, studying gematria and all this other stuff, and of course that is extended, you know, into other practices. But you know, there's something to be said about Hermetic Kabbalah and how it really does form that kind of create that way of thinking, you might say, of categorizations and associations and stuff like that. That anything esoteric, anything involving symbology requires. Okay, so yeah, so. Exactly. And so it's like that tree of life, for example, right? This glyph, it's kind of like this whole theme of architecture or cinema or environment that we've been describing this whole time, of like, okay, like things have their place and things have their categorization, and within one category all other categories will also exist. But it is helpful to be able to categorize, like, for example, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, right? These different things, identifying those, and the tattvas, you know, earth, air, fire, water, ether, they're all combining the tattvas and gunas to create our reality. At least my lineage just puts this forth, and it's a useful way of thinking, you know, and
it connects also to like quantum physics that is coming with these new theories, and it's all like also functioning with that. So you see that it's authentic in the sense, even science starting to find mysteries that are like the Kabbalists would know.
Science is always like 10 steps behind.
They're 10 steps behind of ancient mysticism, always. Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But that's why also like I want to work with Rosenberg with artists, because I feel like the artists are the ones who get the information first. Artists, and I say artists and creators because you don't have to make physical art. You just have to be infused by something and create a reality.
Yeah, I feel you. Just got to be tuned in, you know.
So, and often artists by their own medium have to be tuned in to create.
I'm so sorry. I'm smoking and drinking throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, but they have. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and artistry requires that kind of like authenticity, I guess, that you were describing earlier. You know, about like, and that's why, do I think we're on a precipice of something? I'm like, no, even though I'm non-dualistic and I don't believe that what I think is good, and I think I'm a good person, I don't think that. I think all of us have evil within us, and I'm just as bad as anybody else and good as anybody else. But the fact is like, even if more people are waking up, the pendulum swings and more people are falling more asleep. You know, I see people buying shit and you know, I mean, like 20 years ago, if you told someone that like people like the Kardashians were gonna have attention, everybody would be like, that's absurd, that'll never happen. And look what happened. You know, if you told people that there was gonna be no subculture, that things like grunge or goth or industrial music or drum and bass or whatever, that everything would be melded into this one big universal culture that pandered to the bottom line of a corporation, people wouldn't believe you, but it happened. So it's like,
but that was a little bit, I feel like that was a little bit by design too, with the invention of marketing, with the Freudian ideas that came about, like, okay, we can sell more products if people feel like they can be themselves.
Exactly. So you're talking about like Bernays.
Yes, exactly.
Like how much control do you think you have over the degree of holiness that you exercise in your life and the degree of selfishness that you exert in your life?
And how can you become aware of if you're selfish or not, kind of thing?
What if your capacity to become aware is encoded into your chart? What if not everybody has that capacity? What if like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, yes, we practice yoga, for example. I'm using yoga as a broad term, right? Yoga meaning union with divinity, right? With authenticity. But how much of my ability to operate from a sattvic state is under my control? Like, I think I'm doing it, but is it just time doing it?
But I feel like it depends on the level of your connection, and that is, of course, is subjective. Like, it is a part, we're 50% subjectivity. So
wait, 50% subjectivity? Where'd you get that number?
Okay, well, I mean, there's two parts. That's what I meant. 50, the percentage is not what I was.
There's a lot of parts.
Well, there's a conscious part and a subconscious part. That's what I meant.
That's Freudian.
Huh?
That's Freudian. That's not.
Compared to what else?
He means a figure of speech.
Compared
figure
to
of speech.
like that's not Kabbalistic. That's not Vedic. That's Freudian. That there's two levels of consciousness only. Conscious and subconscious.
Well, probably in the subconscious there's multiple dimensions in there. I'm just saying, like, from our human avatar, there is kind of what we're aware of and what we're not aware of. Like, from the personal perspective.
But our perspective will always be subjective.
Well, yes, I do think there is an objective realm as well. There exists an objective realm that we are not aware of.
And what qualities does that objective realm have? Does that objective realm have qualities of good and evil?
Well, think about like what's the Kabbalion, those Hermetic principles.
I wouldn't call the Kabbalion Hermeticism. That's New Thought. It was written in like 1918. All of our realities are always going to be subjective. The three of us could be seeing the same movie in the same place, watching the same bomb go off, and we're all going to have a different experience of the same event. Subjectivity is inevitable, is an inevitable aspect of human experience, right? I do agree with operating from a place of at least more centeredness, right? Like not moving into for the sake of simplicity, I'll say creativity or desire or destruction or aversion, right? To operate from a place that doesn't, the pendulum doesn't swing too far in either direction of attachment or aversion. That brings us a certain, at least our actions will be more authentic. But how much control do we have over our ability to even exert that level of authenticity, right? You have an exalted Jupiter conjoined the moon and Ketu in your second house. You know, you've got the Lord of the Ascendant in the 11th conjoined Venus in a Parivartana with the Mars in the first house. Right, so it's like you, and I didn't look at your Navamsha, You know, and this guy's got we both actually have Jupiter and Venus in Sagittarius in the first house of our Navamsha, but he has Mercury there, and that's what brings in that earth element, right? He wants to collect things. Why he, you know, for him the memorabilia and that's more of an element. There's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful, and that's why he has that you know, mercurial understanding of design that he says I'm a better draftsman, but I am not. Ben is better, and because he's got Mercury in that Navamsha trine, right? Like there's certain gifts and capacities that we're all given, and time brought those things about, and time will dictate how they unfold as we, you know, move through our dashas and our transits and everything else, and the multiple dashas that we're running, and so how much control do we really have over what we do, and how much control do we have over culture and the way it operates, and the way social media algorithms are guiding people's intelligence. That doesn't feel sattvic to me. It doesn't feel that people are operating from a more authentic place. I think people are actually operating from, if we want to be Freudian, maybe more of an id place, where their kind of more libidinal drives are being constantly poked at on social media, be they through outrage or validation, or, you know, lust. So that's why I can't be totally optimistic about people waking up, because that has a lot of power, you know. And
I feel like with Vedic astrology, just showing people their tendencies, giving them the self-awareness of their patterns,
right,
their subconscious, already is a big step, right?
For sure.
Like imagine someone can change their lives with one astrology reading just by becoming aware, oh shit, that thing that I thought was just I was doomed to do, it's actually a program, and then you can see like, oh, it comes from this part of my childhood and this, and you can start like putting the mirror up and then acting differently the next time a little bit, and improving, you know, your circumstances.
For you, because you have a Gajakeshari yoga and a Parampara yoga with an exalted Jupiter and a Swa moon and I know somebody else who has a similar chart as you or a few people in the second house. So somebody like you is gifted, you might say, with a propensity for that not everybody has.
But what I'm saying is that the times we're living in, I feel like these are like the innate gifts from like whatever this energy is when you're born. But there is also, we're born within a time that has its specific energies, and I think right now the specific energies of the time are disempowering.
Totally.
So you could have the same system that I have in another time, or that anyone has, and you could improve and be more about the others, and be a lot more, those qualities will be more exalted, and those weaknesses will be less weak. You know what I mean? Depending on the time you're in. And
the circumstances you're born into. If I had my same horoscope and I was born in a slum in Mumbai, then my opportunities would be much more limited. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of factors that intervene, and how much free will we actually have to act from that place. Like, I can't say, but I will say you're right, that at least studying astrology and conveying what it has to offer is useful to people, because they operate with at least more awareness. You know, we can strive to operate from that place of authenticity that you're describing, or that place of like harmony, let's say.
And if I can just say something about like where I'm coming from also with this is like, I feel like personally the thing I can do, the best thing I can do with my own skills and talents right now is inspiration. So like by getting you guys on that are acting in this place of more centeredness and of creativity, creating actively, just inspiring others that will see the podcast, but people that see your art as well, you know, to be more themselves, because at the end of the day, that's what you like. The stars won't move in your chart if you do something. They'll say the same, but if you're more yourself, you'll just be more connected to whatever you need to do. And like every second that you're born has a different quality to it. So if everyone does exactly what they have to do on the astrological scale, the planets will continue rotating around the sun.
Are you familiar with Aleister Crowley? Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Yes.
That's exactly what he meant by that.
Okay.
Right. That's a Thelemic principle. That if everybody followed the orbit that was intended for them, that nobody would collide. That everything would
collide, but you would collide with someone that is meant to collide and that teaches them whatever they need to, and it's kind of like this kind of a perfect ecosystem. Right now, I feel like there's too many boxes that are pre-done, pre-organized for you. You're born, you have these streets to follow, you turn there, you have to rent an apartment at this age and go to school at this age and learn something that will bring you money at some point.
That's part of astrology too, in a way. But
that's like too preset for me, and I think there needs to be this reconnection. No, everything is possible. I am in the control of what I create, basically. I think that's kind of the core of the vision, is like creating, you know, not letting other people's create for you your circumstances.
For sure. And operating from a place that is like, I'm not going to have lunch just because it's lunchtime. I'm going to have lunch because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
You know, when you operate from a place that's not programmed.
Exactly.
Right. That's but this, not scary, but the ironic thing is that astrology does program us in a way and afford us certain privileges. And so, and look, just because, you know, you and I have exalted Jupiters, there's still a ton of deficits in our charts, right? Like everybody has their strength and their weaknesses and all that
Perhaps
stuff.
our strength is to have the ability to inspire those who don't about these things, that our strength is not just about us or our ego. That's, I think, what the big nuance is like, your exalted thing, okay, good, I'm gonna have a good life. No, it's exalted, so I'm gonna be able to serve others with it more. I think that's the kind of shift of perspective that's needed. How can I use these skills to empower and serve the community, serve people, bring insights, inspire people? I think that's
at the end of the day, if you're not producing for the benefit, or what your idea of the benefit is of your culture and your community and your society, then what else is there kind of really to live for, other than love? But I would call that a symptom of love. You know, it's like you know, and also in a sense gratitude. Like if you're given certain gifts, you should express them at their highest capacity possible. You know, and or strive for that.
And understand their complexities, how it works, so that you can know in which circumstance will they be put in their exalted place for the greater good.
Yeah. I mean, striving towards that level of operation is definitely noble. You know, and but the best we can do is strive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, the problem, is that people don't strive. They just accept the circumstance and they just let themselves be swayed by other people that have strong wills. Okay, do this, okay.
Yeah, they strive, but maybe they strive for things that they've been told to want, maybe.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of the program that needs to be deprogrammed.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, what I'm seeing the tendencies is moving towards the opposite. Why I say that, but I think it's like both. It's like some people will, okay, I see it now, and other people will just become more and more enslaved by their minds. I think it's going to be, the polar is kind of going, but eventually I hopefully will like reconnect in a few hundred years. But to end, I want to ask you guys one at a time. I always like to end this way. Do you have like a piece of advice talking about others, like something that you feel is valuable to share with others that you have not shared so far? Or is there like a question you wished I had asked tonight that you feel like is something important for you that is worth saying?
You first.
No, you first.
What advice would I give to someone like?
Yeah, to artists that are gonna be watching, or anyone that wants to become like their, whatever it is, like to your own dharma, like to your own.
I guess personally, I would say to any artists out there is to like be inspired by outside influences that are not within the realm of something that you want to be successful in. So like a lot of artists are inspired by other artists or something.
Yeah.
And I'm always saying like, oh, you should not be even focused on what's going on in the art scene. You should be looking at everything else, and anything that really inspires you that is not technically your personal field. Like you should be researching outside of your breath.
Create your own unique product that doesn't come from
Totally.
The product of someone else.
Because in general, it bothers me when people, just because you tell them that you make art, they're like, oh, you're gonna love this because this is an artist, and then you're just like, cool. I personally like hate. I hate going to galleries. I hate going to openings. Not hate. I'm sorry. It's a strong term, but I don't go to, like, if I go to another country, I'd never go to like a contemporary art museum or anything like that. But I mean, I do enjoy it, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah, you have your own unique interest, and that's what's reflected in your art.
Yeah, basically. But I do feel like a lot of people are way too influenced by the thing that they think that they should be researching, and I feel like you should always be.
What will the curator that they want to be like in that gallery? What will they like?
Yeah, totally. Don't tailor your thing to like for someone else's vision. You know, that's probably my one piece of advice.
Okay, cool.
You know,
That's really good advice.
yeah. You know, it's I feel like it's a bit of a sickness, you know, to want to be accepted into like a certain a scene, you know.
Sometimes, you know, even my own path, I can relate to that because I was always feeling like I want to become a successful artist. I want to be like in this gallery, this, that. And then like when I started to actually do what I really was passionate about, then it kind of diverted me. Like I will always be creative. I will always be creating art, but not like even this business Rosenbra, which I call it business. It's not really a business. This movement that I'm trying to create, for me, like this is my creation. You know, it's not something that can be shown in an art gallery, but it brought me there just because I let go of the attachment of having a certain identity within the art world.
Totally. Also, if you do whatever is authentic to yourself, then, you know, if it's an audience that you're looking for, like the audience will find you 100%
Also, yeah,
in general.
Back eventually, also. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
What about you?
What are you?
I mean, the best I can do is like piggyback off that and like, you know, Joseph Campbell, like follow your bliss, you know? I mean, I know like it's become trite, but I love Joseph Campbell, you know? And I think that like, I mean, what's there not to love, you know? Mm-hmm. But like, like do what you're obsessed with doing, you know, follow what, like, I was obsessed with like Hebrew Kabbalah and occultism and all this stuff, and when I remember reading in Eliphas Levi in one of his books, he's like, magic is not a trade, you know. And back then astrology wasn't like, it was like ladies in Arizona with cat sweaters stroking their cats talking about pseudo-Jungian crap, and I didn't like astrology. I liked astrological magic or how it fit in with Hermeticism. But we didn't have the translations then. But I just did what I was obsessed with in my weird, like, way, because I couldn't help it, because that's just what I loved, you know. And like I guess if I was gonna give advice, just like, don't feel fucked up about where you are right now, because wherever you are right now is probably really important to where you need to go. So like don't try to change yourself too much, you know. Like
More acceptance, maybe also.
Like,
Accepting where you are.
yeah, take advantage of like all the strengths and advantages that you do have, and don't focus too much on like what you wish you were or where you wish you were at, because I think that's a trap that like a lot of us fall into, that like we can't, you know, like how many times I look at a picture of myself 10 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, I was so high. Like, why didn't I take advantage of that? Like because I didn't appreciate that at that moment, you know? And it's like that sucks, you know? We like, yes, it's noble to want to evolve, and it's noble to want to be more enlightened and want to be more authentic. But I also think that there's something to be said about like loving and appreciating where you kind of are right now, and understanding that that's probably part of a plan that will end you up right where you need to be, you know?
Yeah, that is the best wisdom of I feel of astrology. It's like,
yeah, I'm a fatalist.
Is divinely organized. You don't need to like waste time anxious. What did you say?
I'm a fatalist in general, so I believe that one. Yeah, it's like fate, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever is supposed to happen is probably
like,
going to happen.
Like, faith is good, and then it's like you're gonna be on that boat anyways. But like, are you gonna have fun while you're driving the boat? And like, it's gonna bring you wherever anyways.
Yeah, totally.
But can you be present with it and like enjoy the ride?
Totally.
Even if it's bad, like it's like just imagine you're watching a horror movie. It's always bad, but you like it anyway.
Yeah, I don't even plan shit. Usually, things just happen.
Yeah,
you know.
It's gonna happen anyways.
I'm raw dogging it.
Yeah, like we just did now, like a little spontaneous.
So if you made it through this video, it was the longest episode so far. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For me, I rewatched it and it was just so entertaining. I felt like we were just three characters interacting in a cartoon almost. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the new moon in 2 weeks.